Stress, anxiety, and depression are universal human experiences. Those may share similar symptoms, but each has its own unique cause. Sharing about the experience is very therapeutic at times. This can be especially true when we are dealing with the mental illness. No matter how you experience these feelings or disorders, we wanted to ensure all the Movians that they are not alone in this journey. Hence, we have conducted a special session with a renowned personality, Dr. Sudipta Das, who works as an associate professor psychiatry at KIMS, Bhubaneswar.
So, wish you very good morning. First of all, this is a informal, it's a formal interactive discussion between you all and me regarding everyday stress and the consequent complications, particularly anxiety and depression. So I used to tell you that when these things are there is availability of professional help. So you are not alone when you are experiencing this kind of problems like stress, anxiety, and depression. Let's understand a little bit about stress. So many people talk stress as an external event, but the popular concept about the stress is it is a psychophysiological reaction to what is called a challenging external event. That challenging external event may be actual or a perceived one. And as I understand, I've got several friends in the software area. They always complain of the same thing. It is a work overload. And there is a discrimination abuse. You can say there is a lady, many ladies, they can understand. There is a harassment, particularly sexual harassment or emotional harassment they might have experienced in the hands of their colleagues or even seniors. There is a discrimination in areas of promotion. Sometimes some of the senior members, they favor one and don't favor another. So we have good role conflicts. When one role is given to another person, there will be loss of boundaries. Sometimes the person is not sure what role he is supposed to do because of bad communication from the seniors. There will be often conflict with the colleagues. So these kind of stresses can overwhelm us if they happen on a daily basis. Relationship issue. When we are already overloaded with some stress of the burden with work and conflict in the office, then these things in our life, some of the symptoms of stresses can be felt in physical, mental, emotional, and behavioral real. And these are the physical symptoms like changes in sleep pattern. When people do not get sleep, there is a lot of time they take to have sleep, and there is frequent arousal of the sleep, and they cannot go back to sleep again. They experience a sense of fatigue all the time in their body. There is changes in the digestion, like many people tell it is gastric, some kind of discomfort in their stomach. Sometimes there is changes in bowel habit, and there is a loss of sexual drive, headaches, aches and pains, different kind of physical infection, particularly viral infections, sense of indigestion, and symptoms which are collected in the name of anxiety. For example, people feel dizziness, they feel a sense of fainting, they sweat and tremble sometimes, they experience tingling of hands and feet, they experience breathlessness and panic attacks, palpitations, sometimes missed heartbeat. Apart from this, people also experience some of the mental symptoms such as lack of concentration, memory lapses, difficulty in making decisions, confusion, disorientation at times. They feel dazed, sometimes they feel distant from the environment, feeling of unreality, and recurrent panic attack when people experience overwhelming anxiety. They can they eat too much or sometimes too little, giving rise to certain conditions like anorexia or bulimia. They resort to increased use of alcohol and other drugs to relax themselves, feel better, or induce sleep. They increase the amount of smoking also for as a method of self-medication. They feel restless. They fidget when they work or sit around. They suffer from nail biting also, and they have exaggerated health concern or hypochondria. Digestive disorders, there are stomach ulcers, As you can go to the office now, if you get a gastrointestinal consultation, people with stress have different kind of findings in their endoscopy reports, like enteral gastritis, gastric erosions, gastric ulcers. There are various skin complaints like psoriasis. It's an autoimmune disease which can be played up by stresses, frequent headache and migraines, the disturbances of appetite, mood, and uh, pain before menses, and anxiety and depressive disorders, and other mental illness. Here, in this context, I must talk. People experience anxiety and sometimes low mood during the periods of stress, but every anxiety and every low mood does not constitute depression, constitute a disorder. When the person experiences relentless anxiety, which is very, very persistent, which is very, very pervasive, that means across different settings, whether it is office condition, whether it is a neutral condition, when a person is rejoicing, completely relaxed situation, still a person feels depressed and anxious and low mood, loses interest, loses courage, loses self-confidence, feels very pessimistic, and this kind of symptoms which can impair uh, his ability to function well, or this can cause significant distress inside the person, they only constitute clinical depression and anxiety disorder. Let's talk a little bit about stress management training. So when we are talking about the stress management training, uh, we just deal with everyday stress for a person or an individual who does not suffer from clinical anxiety and depressive disorder. So some of the steps of this stress management training is self-observation, relaxation training, time management, problem solving, and cognitive structuring. Different conditions. For everyday stress, when the person is still going through stress, when the person is not totally knocked over, when the person is somewhat managing, we do not offer medications. We offer stress management technique, as you said, there are management, relaxation therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, there are time management, there are problem solving skills, social skill techniques. We all do for a person who approaches us without giving medicine. But when depression, anxiety, or other mental health symptoms, they become very persistent, they become pervasive across settings, they're disabling, and they're dysfunctional in nature, then we feel that the person is having a disorder. So we do an assessment. And initially, when the severity of the problem is mild or moderate, we offer only psychological measures. But if there is inadequate benefit from the psychological measures, then perhaps medicines are helpful. When the symptoms are too severe because of very abrupt, stressful reaction, overwhelming reaction from the individual also, sometimes people cannot become cooperative, or they are not enough motivated, or they don't have energy or the energy to undertake any psychological treatment. That at that time we need to give the medications. For your kind information, medicines are quite safe nowadays. They are effective. They can reduce anxiety and depression. They can improve your sleep, and they can improve our efficiency. In the long term, they don't cause severe organ damage, and they are generally not addictive. So if the medication is a necessity, that will be given. But first of all, we always resort to some kind of psychological methods to management of stress, anxiety, and depression. This is a questionnaire to say whether you are having a common mental problem like physical health problems, you are overly stressed, and because of that, you are having clinically significant anxiety or depression. So this is a set of 20 questionnaire developed by professional, and it has been approved by World Health Organization. This is called self-reporting scales, whereas SRS 20. You can administer with yourself. If you are having 6 or 8 symptoms, then perhaps things are quite significant for you. You need to manage your stress. You mobilize your resources, try handling your stress or your anxiety and depression by psychological methods or see a professional. So this is a summary of 10 strategies. So we must take adequate nutrition and do regular exercise, if possible, breathing exercise, and like develop some personal discipline and have regular habits like breathing exercise, progressive muscular relaxations, which uh, keep your baseline anxiety less. We should have effective communication with our colleagues, and if we are having any lack of communication skills, then we must inculcate that by taking adequate help. We should have access to good healthcare centers, like many organizations are keeping psychologists. If we have some issues, we should be ready enough to talk to them without perceiving a sense of stigma to talk about it, because it is always an act of intelligence and smartness to take help. Uh, Remaining a little bit of spiritual, I know it is not a cup of coffee for everybody. Little bit of spiritual helps to keep our bent of mind with more feelings of acceptance and letting go of the things. Educate yourself regarding everyday stress and the coping skills. Keep yourself adequate time for relaxation, so pace your activities accordingly. Have a sense of humor. You should have a good set of relationships and support system, and you should learn techniques of stress management if possible. But out of it, I would say you must identify your relationship and support system. And out of the support system, you must not forget professional help. People generally become very stigmatized when talking to mental health professionals. Mind you, now in India, there are 17 crores of people suffering from anxiety and depression in total. And one in every 6 females and one in every 8 males, they're suffering from some sort of anxiety and depression. It is so common. So every third or fourth person or sixth person that you see outside might be taking some help or taking some help from either professionals or friends. So nevertheless, they will be taking some help. So you are not alone. So we are there to help you out if things overwhelm you. So with this, your self-help, with your own efficiency, with the change of lifestyle, and your smartness in taking help, you may not be able to make the sea smooth. So the stress will happen in daily life still, but you can learn to sail through the waves. And we are always a favorable wind to assist you, your coach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. So now we are open for the question and answer session. किसी का कुछ भी क्वेश्चन है related to this, और अगर आप किसी और के behalf में कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछना चाहते हैं कि उनको ऐसे symptom है, if this is a stress or if this is anything related to depression, so please feel free to ask the questions.
Hello, sir. I am Prakash.
Hi, Prakash.
Yeah. So my question is, from your presentation, I came to know whenever you angers, so some hormones stimulate from our body. So
Yes.
when you angers, sometimes we can express, sometimes we are not able to express. So my question is, so either express or without express, the anger always reactions in our body is exactly same. Am I right? Yeah, different.
Yes, you are right. Yes, you are right. Actually, once there is a response starts inside the body, and your mind, whether you express or not express, it sets a cascade of reactions inside the body. That includes physical reaction, which involves the secretion of some of the hormones and some of the neurotransmitters, which keep your mind and body alert, hyper aroused.
But my observations, whenever we anger and not express, the stress very limited. But if we express, then we have to think much more how the reaction of the others whenever we say. So that stress much more as compared to without express.
Yes, I mean, bottling up the stress also actually it accumulates. If you bottle up your stress, bottle up your series of thoughts without expressing, that is accumulated as a form of more and more stress. This is something, it is an interesting psychodynamics, and actually it is something like keeping the momentum high when you keep things inside. So it is something like a pressure builds up inside you, and it produces more and more reactions. And when we discharge some of the pressures by talking, then the stress comes down. We know that is called what is that is in psychodynamic terms something I'm forgetting now. I'll be able to tell you that particular term, but catharsis, I will say, yes, catharsis. And catharsis is an established method for reduction of stress. When a person is in stress, persons cannot tell because of some reason, whatever, cannot express. One of the duty of us psychodynamic specialists are to take out that particular content of your mind through what is called catharsis, or sometimes you use something called abreaction. And by talking out the stressful events, the people sometimes get relief.
Okay, thank you, sir. Apart from this, I have another questions.
Yes, please. Shoot.
One is from your presentation, I have seen headache and another is migraine. So
Yes.
I want to know, is the continuous headache will become migraine? Yeah, migraine is different from the headache.
In the face of stress, generally people do have some, what we say, that is a continuous tension in our muscles also that can cause something called what is called a tension headache. But migraine headache is a vascular event. It causes actually, it is a stretching of the vessels because of rhythmic relaxation, rhythmic dilatation of our brain arteries, that is stretching of our arteries. So the nerve fibers which are there in the artery, they also become very stretched, causing the pain. So this is a physical disorder, but the stretching of the nerve activities are, nerves inside the blood vessels, they are influenced by the emotional factors. So the person does not sleep, the person takes some food which also causes some kind of serotonin surge, the surge of some of the chemicals. Because of it being emotional upset also, these vascular the vessels of the brain, they get overstretched, causing migraine headache. This is a physical disorder, but it has got a significant association with stress.
So how do you know we are suffering from the migraine? Suppose I am suffering from the headache, but this is not continuously 15 days, 10 days or something. But how do you know we are suffering from the migraine?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, headache, generally, this kind of headache which occurs due to stress, they're generally all over the head, or sometimes most of the time in the back. They occur towards more in the evening time. They are generally continuous, a pressure, some kind of continuous kind of pain, as opposed to migraine, which happens in episodes. Sometimes one or two attacks that can last for about 2 to 3 days, then automatically it goes. The pain generally it affects one side of the head, sometimes left side or sometimes right side, but rarely it can affect both sides. The nature of the pain is throbbing. Throbbing means it is something like somebody is hammering inside your brain. And many people who suffer from migraine, they know that hours before the migraine, they'll feel very uneasy. There'll be some kind of say flashing of the lights inside in front of their eyes. When they close their eyes, they feel up nausea. They have some kind of irritation when they look at the light. They have irritation phobia towards sound at the time. So exposure to light and sound aggravates the pain, and they prefer to sleep in the dark during migraine, which is very throbbing. It is accompanied by certain vomiting and nausea, and it is self-limiting. Sometimes it can go in 2 to 3 days time, again to come back in few weeks. But these other headaches are generally bilateral. They are non-throbbing type. They are very pressure type. They occur more in the evening. They are not episodic. They can be continuous. Hope it answers your query.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, I have a question. This is
Yes,
Prashasti.
please.
So
Yes,
I
Prabha.
heard that lot of stress can cause the hair fall or the obesity. So how true this is? I mean, I heard this in Facebook videos, and so many postings are there that if you have stress, then that may cause the hair fall, or that may brings you obesity. So is it true or this is just a myth?
It is actually 100% true. 100% true. There are lots of scientific literature which talk about stress and the hair fall. And depression is a known cause of hair fall. So many people who do lots of shampooing, all sort of things, and take up some of the mantras from the internet to go for a regime to save their hair, or they actually miserably fall because they will be suffering from depression and they are not treated. And by treating the depression, the hair fall has stopped. And recently, I had a case actually. What happens actually when people become anxious and when people become depressed, also they have additional sleep disturbances, and taking food, taking food actually really causes slight reduction of anxiety, or sometimes also it reduces sleep. Many people feel hungry when they do not have sleep, or they break up sleep. They wake up in the light and take some food from the fridge and then go back to sleep. That is what very commonly called comfort eating. And many people also, because of anxiety, their appetitive center is also stimulated because of depression. There are kinds of depression where atypical depression, as you say, their appetitive center is stimulated, and it leads to hyperphagia. That you say the increased eating. So all these causes, so comfort eating, increase of appetitive center stimulation, and because of what I can say, lack of exercise, laziness due to anxiety and depression, they cannot keep their routine also to shed the weight. So all these problems can give rise to obesity, and it is not a myth.
Thank you, sir. So I have another question. I will ask this on behalf of someone from our company. I face this question because I normally meet with people. We have an event called HR Meet. There I meet with the random people from random departments so that they can openly talk to me. They can talk about their problems or they can suggest me anything. So there I got this question from a girl. I'll not take this name. So she told me like I mean before this pandemic everything was so eventful, everyone was so lively, they were going outside, they were meeting people, and after this pandemic, due to some reason they are being isolated, they're not being able to talk to more people, they're not going outside, they're not going to the parties that they normally were enjoying before. So sitting alone inside a room and doing the work all the day, and then the weekends are just like boring for them, so they feel very depressed. So is there any other way to come out from this situation? Because we do not know when this pandemic will be over, when everything will be normal. Like in some cities, theaters are open, or I mean there are so many parties which are going on, but still there are some lockdown states, still there are some restriction in some other states also. So is there any particular solutions to this?
I don't know. I'm in this kind of situation. I know pandemic. It's a great isolated. We cannot do the things that we used to do. So to relax ourselves, to unnerve ourselves. So there was a time when all say picnic spots, the temples, the theaters, and travel, everything were totally, I mean, all over the place. So people have suffered from isolation, and isolation is one of the causes of feeling stressed and depressed. I understand, and there is not enough to do to make ourselves happy. So because if you do something, the behavior gives a feedback to the mind to become happy. Yes, I understand. But as far as the solution goes, psychiatrists don't have a solution to this. I understand. I am as knowledgeous or as ignorant as you regarding solution of this, but maybe possible I can share my views. I mean, possible. So only becoming virtual is not enough. So hopefully now things are opening up right now. So people have more access to outside world right now, and people can develop some taste if they want, say, for doing some indoor activities. Not always actually. Maybe say people who have a lot of taste in going and partying and socializing others, they can do some kind of socializing virtually and take up some books and or things that they have not done, they can catch up with that. This is time they have to utilize. And as the pandemic rules says, if you walk outside, so many people have exaggerated fear of going out because of pandemic. As the pandemic says, the rule says if you stay away for like 5 meters and you have got a mask, and now if you're vaccinated, you can go freely for a walk, or you can go to not a very crowded but reasonable public places. You can go, but because of the pandemic, we're so scared we don't go out. I've got so many clients on, well, we're not going to walking because there is a pandemic and we cannot go. But it's not true actually. Inside a house or inside an AC house, actually, there is more risk of spread of virus than going out with a mask and remaining 5 feet away from the people. So if that is actually restricting you, please get out of that restriction. And now that there is, hopefully there is some kind of freeing of the rules, so you could go out. Otherwise, yeah, a necessarily extrovert person, it's very difficult to become introvert and do certain activity at house and remaining happy. But if you have a knack of doing yoga or doing meditation, you can do it. But you can arrange small gathering right now. For example, people who are all vaccinated, and then you can get small gathering. Don't entertain so many people, and inside private places. Perhaps that is going to help. And if there is any other way, I think you can share with me. I would love to take.
Sure. I think no. So I think we can end up this session. Um, I must say we all are thankful to you for the wonderful time and to answer all the questions that we have in the mind. What else we can do?